which they don't begin calling the Liberty Bell just yet. But another reason they latched onto the bell is this inscription at the top: proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Now that actually comes from the Bible, and it refers to an ancient Israelite tradition where the Israelites would free their enslaved servants. So Americans who wanted to liken their treatment under British rule to a form of slavery thought this made this a perfect symbol of their struggle. However, the people struggling and fighting to end actual slavery in America pointed out that the message is essentially saying free your slaves, and that was something that Americans in general weren't doing at that time. So they began using the bell as a symbol of the abolitionist cause. And because of them, well, and they also were the first ones to call it the Liberty Bell. But because of them, the meaning changed a bit. It was no longer just about the fight to create a new country, for a representative government, for liberty and freedom at a specific point in time. But instead would be about those same fights, whoever, whenever, wherever this fight was occurring and whoever was fighting. So other people who wanted to link their struggles and their causes with the American Revolution and to remind people that this country was born from a fight for freedom would also use this bell as a symbol of their cause. Women suffragists demanding the right to vote for women would use the bell, one going so far as to make a full-size replica of it that she toured Pennsylvania with to support a state amendment to the Constitution in 1915. Another group was student activists in the 1960s. As people across the country were protesting for African American rights in particular, and civil rights more broadly, and as African American protesters and their supporters demanding the right to vote in Alabama had been dispersed, just a few days later, that was in the town of Selma in 1965, just a few days later, students gathered at Independence Hall where the bell was on display. And they had a sit-in where they sat around the bell, not to be any more disruptive than just being there, and not to keep people from going to the bell, but the whole point was just to remind everyone who came to the park and everyone who came to see the Liberty Bell that this fight wasn't just something that happened in the past. It was something that was occurring at that very moment. And it was, again, that same fight that established this republic. So, as you think about all the groups who have fought and struggled, and in many cases died for liberty, as those men who were held as prisoners of war in Independence Hall in 1777 during the British occupation, many of them died. As these folks struggled and fought, I would invite you to walk around the bell, you want to head counterclockwise, and read this inscription at the top. And ask yourselves, what does it mean to proclaim liberty throughout all the land, unto all the inhabitants thereof? Thank you, folks. If you have any questions at all, I will be glad to answer. I will be right